Texas A&M star athlete Terry Bussey is being disrespected by the national media. I'll tell you why on today's episode of Locked On Aggies.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. On the show today, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking a little bit about some bracketology for the basketball team. We are going to talk about the big win yesterday over the Georgia Bulldogs, but we have to get things started talking about this list of true freshmen last year in college football. So I was really frustrated by this list because when I look at the year Terry Bussey had, I think it's a list from Hayes Fawcett over on Instagram that I found. And when I look at this list, it's kind of hard to fully interpret how to look at it. So, it's top 100 true freshmen in college football. So it doesn't state, is it based on talent? Is it based on future upside? Is it based on just the numbers? And I've heard some other Locked On hosts frustrated with where their freshmen were on this list. And want to know how frustrated I was? Guess where Terry Bussey was listed in the top 100? He wasn't. And I get numbers. I get all that. I get that Terry Bussey only had 216 yards and he had 102 rushing. So, he basically had 318 total yards and 2 touchdowns between rushing and receiving. Obviously, he helped in the return game as well. But, there's not 100 freshmen in college football better than Terry Bussey. That's the reality. So, I'm frustrated by this list because it's just like, when I look at it, there's just not a whole bunch of guys better than Terry Bussey. There just aren't. There aren't 100. I don't think there's 20. Yes, when you look at this list of names, obviously Jeremiah Smith, right? No question. Dylan Stewart, Ryan Williams, KJ Bolden, Cam Coleman, DJ Lagway. I'm not saying that Terry Bussey should be number 2. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, I think if you look at the players on this list and you look at future upside and how good these guys are going to be down the road, you cannot bring up the name Terry Bussey. I think that, and one thing I want to talk about within this, it'll be the conversation within the conversation today, but, I want to discuss a little bit about the future for Bussey when it comes to what position is he going to play. Is there somewhere that maybe makes more sense than somewhere else? The previous staff wanted him to play the cornerback position. This staff, Coach Elko has made it clear that last offseason heading into this previous season, they weren't fully sure what he was going to do. Now I think that this was interesting because I think Terry, it's hard. And it reminds me of the Heisman winner, Travis Hunter, because he was so good on both sides of the football. You could not have him on the field. And I'm just telling y'all, yes, I think Terry Bussey's a wide receiver. I think that's his what he's going to be for Texas A&M next year. But we've discussed some of the question marks surrounding this team when it comes to the secondary. And if some of these things aren't resolved, if there are still concerns about this secondary when the season rolls around next year, what the heck? Give Bussey a shot. Seriously, I think that there's a world where he can help your secondary. Now, I think that Terry Bussey, when it comes to his next season, I think he's going to have a big year. Now, looking at what happened on the receiver room this offseason, they went and got some dudes. You go and get a Casey Concepcion and the Mario Craver, and you go get some of these guys that are going to really help you out. So it's going to be a real talking point this offseason. What kind of role will Terry Bussey have next season for the Aggies? And it's hard because that kid can't not be on the football field in some capacity. He's one of the most electric players in the entire SEC when it comes to having his hands on the football. So, I mean, he's going to be out there. I think that they're going to, get a little bit more gadgety with him next year. Now, I mean, we saw in games last year. I mean, looking at Terry Bussey's numbers, I mean, there were games last year, specifically that game, I believe it was Missouri, where he led us in receiving yards. Yeah, he had 3 catches for 76 yards. So, looking at this, he can be a possession receiver as well. Like, I think a lot of people look at Terry Bussey and say, oh, incredible athlete. That's just who he is. Yes, he's an incredible athlete, but he also has the upside to be a really, really good just possession receiver, route runner, creation separator type of receiver. He has that upside in him. So, and I'm frustrated by this list because there are not 100 players in college football better or freshmen better than Terry Bussey. And I've literally I looked at this list 100 times. I'm going to do it again. I've looked at this list 100 times being like, there's no way he's not on this list. And I mean, you're telling me some of these guys, I mean, we got a Jackson State player, a North Texas player on here. We've got an ECU player. We have players from all of these small schools. I know that the numbers weren't massive. I know that he didn't have a ton of yards. I know that I'm literally going back through again to make sure that he is not on this list. I mean, seriously, it was that crazy to me. There's no way that he's not on here. I mean, he's not on here. I just don't understand how you can look at, the numbers weren't great, but look at the impact he had at a program that was in a college football playoff conversation for a long time. I mean, he was out there returning kicks, punts. He was out there playing receiver. He was getting some carries. I mean, you used him at running back at times. He was a really good player for the Aggies. So I don't understand how he's not on this list. I get that the numbers weren't huge, but I mean, like I said, there's some players at the tail end of this list. Kent State, New Mexico State, Southern Miss, South Alabama, Rutgers, Tulsa. Come on. I mean, so there's not, these players are not better football players than Terry Bussey. And I don't think, I mean, that's just the reality. I think you've got to take into account where he was doing, what he was doing. So, I guess my way of looking at this for the future is Terry Bussey is going to find a way to be a really dominant force for this football team next season. I just think that you're going to see some absolute fireworks come from him next year. We know how talented of a player he is, but you really didn't get to see it on display. He was a true freshman. I think this is going to be the year where Terry Bussey in 2025, you're just going to go, man, that kid's a star. And then I think he's right now one of the most underrated players in the SEC. And then I think after the 2025 season, next offseason, when we're talking about 2026, we're going to be talking about Terry Bussey is going to be a first-round pick in the NFL draft. That's how good of a football player he is. I agree the coaching staff has to find the right ways to utilize him. They also have to find a way, do you use him on defense? I was all in on him. I was all in on him as a corner. Now, once again, I'm bought in on Terry Bussey being a wide receiver. But once again, I think that there is a future for him at multiple different positions of the football field. He's just an elite football player. And the NFL is going to come calling someday, and it's going to come calling early in the draft. So he's a player that I just haven't heard a lot of conversation about when it comes to Texas A&M. I just have not heard enough conversation about Terry Bussey and how much upside he has and how good he can be. No one is talking enough about it, and it's really frustrating because I think that he is going to be an absolute star next year. So to reiterate my point, even if it is based on production, it's just crazy that what Terry Bussey did, playing somewhat limited snaps as a true freshman at an SEC school, he's not considered a top 100 freshman to college football. I'm not buying it for half a second. Let me know y'all's thoughts on this in the YouTube comments. Are y'all as frustrated as I am? We're going to talk about the basketball team's win over Georgia. I want to talk about some more big picture conversations around this basketball team, and then we will look at bracketology, and we'll do that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at Wayfair. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find that decluttering and refreshing my space helps me get back into a routine. Whether you're tidying up, cleaning out, or just want to give your space a new look to start the year, Wayfair has everything you need, all within your budget. For me personally, I'm currently looking for some different furniture, about to get my own place down here in a little bit, and trying to furnish it. And where am I doing it? On Wayfair. I love the shipping. I love the free, hassle-free delivery for large items. It's so simple to use. Incredibly awesome company product. Way that I'm going to buy every piece of furniture for my future homes. This one, first house, whatever, buy it all on Wayfair. Give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to Wayfair.com right now. That's Wayfair, Wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. The Aggies get it done against Georgia. And I'll tell you this. I don't want you to listen loud and clear. I have had my concerns with this basketball team. I have had my, I don't know, I'm not buying it. I'm not sure. I don't know yet. I've done it. I've had it. We've had these conversations. I am now 150% bought into this basketball team. They have problems. They do have problems. There are concerns that could bite us in the behind in the month of March. But this team is the real deal. You've got star power. You've got scorers. You've got great defenders. This basketball team can be really good. And I like how you are a team. Your bigs, Solomon Washington nails 2 threes for you and gives you 17 points in this game to go at 5 rebounds. And once again, you keep doing your thing, absolutely dominating on the boards, 42-31. You have a total of 19 offensive rebounds to their 10. Everything Texas A&M needs to do to win basketball games, they found a way to do in this game. I look at this basketball team, and I do like how on any given night, multiple players can get. So, not the best nights ever for Wade and Zurich. Y'all know I love efficiency on the basketball, and I know it's not always you need your guards to take high. It's why a good field goal percentage for a guard to shoot slots 45%. They're not always going to hit a ton of shots. So, but 4 of 11 for both Phelps and Taylor. Don't love that. 6 for 11 gives me a little. Efficiency is big for me in basketball. You get 12 points and 10 points from them respectively. You get 13 points from Henry Coleman, 6-9 from the field. That's efficient. Now, I know that a lot of that comes from players that are giving you more, they're shooting around the rim, and that's kind of the point. So I think that is kind of the way that I look at a player like Henry Coleman or Solomon Washington. These guys are shooting the ball around the rim. So, it does get me excited for the future to see Coleman and to see Washington give you some good minutes and give you some points and give you some real upside. Anderson Garcia, 5 rebounds in this game. It's been, and Buzz talked about this, it's been really interesting seeing his numbers and the way they've kind of shaped up. Last year, Anderson Garcia was a 9.1 rebounds per game guy who pulled down a ton of offensive rebounds per game. Now he's at 5.5 rebounds per game. And Coach Buzz Williams talked about this. He said, listen, like, opposing teams now know the name Anderson Garcia. They know what he can do. They're getting bodies on him, which is why you've seen some other players find ways to give you more rebounds. Henry Coleman's having himself a fine year on the glass. You're seeing some different players give you rebounds and help you out. So Solomon Washington is having a year where he's averaging 5.6 rebounds per game. I mean, you're getting what's good about this team is you get rebounds from everywhere. You get rebounds from a lot of players on the court, and that's what's exciting is you're getting it from all over. There's a lot of teams that they have a guy averaging 33 rebounds a game, but if they have a bad rebounding game, you're going to get killed on the boards. This Texas A&M team, I mean, if you pull up the season-long stats, we've got how many guys over 5 rebounds per game? 1, 2, 3. 3 guys over 5 rebounds per game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players over 3 rebounds per game. I mean, that is how you kill on the glass. That's just the reality. So another thing I loved from this Georgia game, also, I mean, this was ugly at first. I did not like the start. I did not like the first half. I did not feel good about the way this game was going to turn out. You know what'll change that? A 22-0 run. A 22-0 run will fix literally any potential problems you could have. And that's what the Aggies did in this game. So I loved that you had 17 assists on 26 made baskets. That always will work. That will always work. And this is for a team that averages how many assists per game? Let's see. Let's pull this number up as well. 12 assists per game. I've talked about it. What I want to see this team, my 2 gripes about this team, because defensively, rebounding, they're elite at those things. My issues for this basketball team are very simple, and they are you got to be better at the free throw line, and you've got to be better passing the ball and getting good looks. I think this team does a little bit too much isolation offense. They don't move the ball around. I still have those issues, but then seeing a game where you make 27 or is it 26, where you make 26 baskets and assist on 17 of them, that will work. That is what we need to see more of to have confidence in this team. So, I do like seeing you get that type of playing time, in that type of these numbers from your players. So I really love looking at a stat sheet and seeing this team find a way to win in different ways. I like the lineup that we've ran out there. I mean, I like this lineup with all the players here. I like the lineup that you have with those guards and then Payne and Coleman. I think it works. I mean, Hefner's just not been shooting the ball well. He's 1 of 8 from the field yesterday, 1 of 4 from 3. It would be huge for this basketball team if he could get hot for the month of March. And I think there's a world where that happens. But it would be you always need one player to step up from here to here and take their game to the next level. And I think that Hefner, maybe Carter, or Wilcher, it's going to be one of those 3 players. So want one of them to get hot. If one of them gets hot, it's going to be very, very helpful. So I'm kind of looking at this basketball team and saying, if you fix those things, which they did in this game, they assisted. Free throws still weren't great, but once again, that's something you got to hope it gets better. Because I don't see it happening, but I mean, it needs to. I was proud of this basketball team. You get punched in the mouth early, you respond really well, and win a game against a solid Georgia team. They're not elite, they're fine. They're a good team with good players. And you find a way to win. I was really proud of this team and the way they won this one. We're going to talk about bracketology. We're going to talk about Ken Palm. We're going to talk about net rankings. We'll do all that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. So currently in KenPom, the Aggies sit 13th overall with the 36th best offense and the 6th best defense. I think that this Texas A&M defense, I've watched a lot of SEC basketball in person this year. This Texas A&M defense is better than 6th in the country to me. I've seen Texas A&M play in person once this year. I have never seen a team so incredibly gifted at closing out. I mean, really, the way that this team was closing out on threes, it is so impressive. I mean, so impressive. It's just seeing this team continually find a way to make threes that look open, get contested quickly. It is a big reason why I believe Texas A&M is going to do well in the postseason. So I just think that they're better than 6 there, in my opinion. Offensively, 36, I'm buying that. I get that. I would love to see the Aggies get inside the top 25 if that's possible. But I'm just telling you, I think for March, defense is what's going to win. And the Aggies have a darn good defense. When it comes to the net rankings, another important metric, the Aggies currently sit 12th overall. They've moved up a spot. You are on the road, you're 4-3. On neutral site games, you're 4-1. The Aggies are 7-5 in quad 1 games. You haven't lost a game that's not a quad 1 game, which is huge for postseason play. You are 6-0 in quad 2, 1-0 in quad 3, and 5-0 in quad 4. You do not want to lose any games outside of quad 1, and Texas A&M has done a really good job of that to this point. So that is good to know. And then bracketology is the last, and net ranking is what matters for seeding. So you want to have a good net ranking. That puts you in a good spot right there to be a 3 or 4 seed. And knowing you're playing in the SEC, you're going to keep climbing up those net rankings. So keep winning big games and good things will happen. Bracketology, the Aggies in the most recent update, are a 2 seed in the West region. The 1 seed in that bracket is Tennessee, who is not a 1 seed. Tennessee, I'm not bought in on Tennessee. So a lot of SEC schools in this bracket. It's us, Oklahoma. Then you've got Ole Miss and Tennessee all in that little quadrant of 16 teams. I think that'd be a good draw. I think you're the best team. I mean, the 3 seed there is Arizona. They've been playing good ball, but I think you're better than them. The 7 seed Clemson is scary. Clemson to me is better than a 7 seed. They've beat Kentucky. They've beat Duke. They've beat good basketball teams. They're better than a 7 seed. I would not want them to be our 7 seed when some of your other 7 seeds are Louisville, who I think is overrated, Mississippi State, who I think is, overrated, and Missouri, who I think is overrated. I would rather play those 3 teams than I would play Clemson, in my personal opinion. So, but that's where we're at in all the metrics. The basketball team for the Aggies is looking really darn good. I am really fired up about the I'm just really, really excited to see the future for this basketball team because I think it's going to be special. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. We've got baseball to talk about later in the week. We've got more basketball, more football, all coming up here on Locked On Aggies later in the week. Hope everyone has a great rest of their Wednesday, and we'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.